Who has been stuck like glue to the news feed today? Yeah. Well, our Torah portion is also wrapped up in the story of redeeming women and children from danger. There it is written that after Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob then turned to his deceitful father-in-law, Laban, and said, "Let me go, and let me return to my own homeland." And then he said, "Tana et nashai ve'et yiladai," and let me take my women and my children with me. And then began the negotiations between Jacob and Laban. And they were protracted negotiations. So our Torah portion parallels what our people, what the world has been experiencing for 38 days now. I began to first study the laws of Pidyon Shvuyim, redeeming the captives, when Gilad Shalit was taken captive in 2006. Some of you may recall when he was with us on Yom Kippur and led us in the prayer for the state of Israel. There was not a dry eye in the sanctuary that night because we knew that we were witnessing a living miracle. Hamas held Gilad Shalit captive for over 5 years, until his release on October 18th, 2011, as part of a prisoner exchange deal. You recall more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners and known terrorists, including the one who would go on to become one of the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre. So let me share with you a little bit of an enormous collection of legal material, Jewish halachic material, that helps us to decide how and when and for whom. Because as complicated as it is with international law, as complicated as it is with military law, I assure you there is also the Jewish law that is in the background and still influencing the hearts and minds of the people who are wrapped up in this story, and that includes us all. So let me say first, this mitzvah of redeeming the captive is central in Jewish law. According to Maimonides, the 12th century legal giant, there is no greater mitzvah than Pidyon Shvuyim. Mitzvah Rabbi. Redeeming the captive supersedes other mitzvot like giving food or clothing to the poor. Maimonides teaches there is no greater mitzvah than Pidyon Shvuyim, for the problems of the captive include the problems of the hungry and the thirsty, the naked, and the one who is in mortal danger. A delay in fulfilling this mitzvah is, according to Maimonides, tantamount to transgressing the following commandments. You shall not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. You shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand against your kinsman in need. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. You shall rescue those who are drawn towards death, among others. Maimonides builds on the Talmudic teaching, saying that money set aside for the poor or monies raised for the sake of building a synagogue may be used instead to ransom a captive. Those funds raised for one identified purpose can be diverted to another. And the Tosafot added that even though a completed synagogue building must not be sold to pay the ransom for a captive, a Torah scroll may be sold for this purpose. Not that it must be, but it may be sold for this purpose. And Maimonides concludes his legal writings on the matter with very charged language. For every moment that one delays in freeing the captives, when he or she could expedite their freedom, it is considered as if, and that word is important, ki'ilu, it is considered as if he or she himself is committing murder. So this is very charged language, and I share it with you now to help you understand just how central and how critical the mitzvah of redeeming the captives is in Jewish law and in Jewish history. Literally, from the very beginning, from Abraham and Sarah's generation, we were involved in the mitzvah of redeeming the captive. When Lot was taken capture, Abraham set out to redeem him and the 318 others who were with him. I'll share two other examples. One comes from the Middle Ages in Spain. Rabbi Avraham ibn Daud of the 11th century gives account of the 4 sages who were taken captive by pirates, and several Jewish communities along the Mediterranean Sea joined together to ransom them. This tells you something about the global effort of redeeming captives. That was the known Jewish world around the Mediterranean. And they collaborated and coordinated in order to bring these 4 sages home. And the fact that this story is found in Jewish texts throughout Egypt, North Africa, Muslim Spain, emphasizes the importance of the message for that time. Similarly, in Ashkenaz, and this I want to offer a counterpoint for you to know that there are counter legal opinions that say we have to be careful when ransoming the captive, because it could only give reason for more hostages to be taken. The most famous example comes from 1286, when Rabbi Meir of Rothenburg, the most outstanding sage of his generation, was taken captive by the German King Rudolf I. A ransom of 20,000 marks was demanded, which was an astronomical sum. In spite of German Jewry's readiness to raise the ransom, Rabbi Meir quoted from the Mishnah and refused to be ransomed, saying, "Mipnei tikkun olam," on account of the public good. And he died in captivity 7 years later. And 14 years after his death, authorities then permitted the Jewish community, if they wanted, to take possession of Rabbi Meir's body for a proper Jewish burial, but only at an enormous sum. And that generation paid the ransom. That means they did not follow their rabbi's own teaching, but they were so bereft without assuring him a proper burial. I share this example from history again to show you just how central and how fraught this mitzvah of redeeming the captives is. So just one example of today's current situation about Jewish law, Israeli law. Rabbi Chaim David Halevi says that earlier collections of law codes, historic law codes, are not really relevant to Israel's current day, because at that time the kidnappers were interested in money. But today's terrorists kidnap for political and ideological reasons. And so no matter what price we may pay, it will not alter their attempts to kidnap again and again and again. And so it gets even more complicated. A call to action. You know the famous Mishnah, whenever someone destroys a single life, it is considered as if he has destroyed an entire world. And whenever someone saves a single life, redeems, rescues a single life, it is considered as if he has saved a world entire. So we have an opportunity to participate in this mitzvah. In a very far-removed way, but in an important way nonetheless. Monday, December 4th, at 1:30, we will gather at Parliament Hill, and we will send a very clear message to our government that Canada must stand with Israel in this war against Hamas, that Canada must help to redeem the captives and use whatever means possible to pressure Hamas to release them. And we also are showing up on December 4th, not only for our brothers and sisters there, but for one another, right here. We will stand shoulder to shoulder and heart to heart in Ottawa, because there should be no room for hate right here in Canada. And we want the whole country to see us stand to say so and to hear us say so. So all the details can be found on the website, on Holy Blossom's website, and we look forward to seeing you there. I'll be leaving for Israel this coming Monday in the early morning hours, and I will be bringing you with me. I'll be going on a rabbinic mission with the Hartman Institute. I'm happy to share the itinerary with you from early morning to late at night. We'll be volunteering. Usually I go to the Hartman Institute to study, but this will be more doing than learning, or learning through our doing, I suppose. We're going to turn to this Nomi Shemer song. Lu Yehi was written and composed by Nomi Shemer during the Yom Kippur War of 1973, 50 years ago. And it was really the anthem of that war. But it won't surprise you to know that this song is now being sung again by Israelis 50 years later. The children and grandchildren of that generation now are learning this song and singing it with full hearts.
עוד יש מפרש לבן באופק, מול ענן שחוט כבד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. ואם בחלונות הערב, אור נרות החג רועד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. אם המבשר עומד בדלת, תן מילה טובה בפיו, כל שנבקש לו יהי. אם נפשך למות שואלת, מה פריחה ומה אסיף, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. מה קול ענות אני שומע, קול שופר וקול תופים, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לא תשמע בתוך כל אלה גם תפילה אחת מפי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
Final verse of this song. And if suddenly, rising from the darkness over our heads, there is a light of a star shining, then grant tranquility and grant great strength to all those we love. Lu Yehi, all that we seek, all that we long for, all that we ask for, so may it be. Amen.